What's up, Average Dad fans? Welcome back to another video, and this is it. Full review of the Samsung Z Fold 4. I'm going to tell you all about the specs, the hardware, the software, the functionality of this quite fantastic foldable phone. But is it worth the money? I'm going to break down the price and tell you my thoughts and opinions. Let's go. So let's start with the hardware of the actual device. 2 screens and it folds. That's what the phone does. Your outer display is a 6.5 inch 120Hz QHD display, and it looks fantastic, especially when you compare it to the last year's Z Fold 3, as it's now a few millimeters wider, and it does actually make a bit of a difference when replying to messages, scrolling through your news feeds or your Instagram feeds. So it does help. The inside screen is much the same, and that's not a bad thing. However, with the 7.6 inch inside screen, it's 120Hz, it's QHD, it's fantastic. They've also changed the materials inside. It's still a plastic, but it's a different feeling plastic to the Z Fold 3. Now, you're only going to know the difference if you've actually used both. What I will say is the Samsung Z Fold 4 now feels much more like the Vivo X Fold and the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, in that it's like thin glass rather than a plasticky feeling. So that is a very good thing. Now, continuing with the hardware, we have Gorilla Glass Plus on the front, Gorilla Glass Plus on the back, Victus Plus. Very durable, fairly scratch resistant, as you can see from my device. It's remained scratch free in its first couple of weeks. However, I have had one of the Samsung grip cases on it. It's actually quite handy. It's got that strap on the back to hold on to, and that's obviously saved it from any scratch or bumps or dents. On top of the glass and surrounding the phone, you have armoured aluminium, which on the Z Fold 3 worked really well. But on the Z Fold 4, it's meant to be tougher, more durable, and I like the fact that it's more of a squared off design. I do like that very much, reminding you more like an iPhone squared off design. Obviously it's different because it's a fold, but anyway. Continuing on with the hardware, the cameras. There's a triple camera setup. You have your 50 megapixel main sensor, your 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel, or is it 10 megapixel? 12 megapixel telephoto. I'll pop that asterisk up there again. I got this wrong last time. But it's a 3 times telephoto zoom lens, and I've done a full comparison between the 14 Pro Max, but here's some images of how those photos actually look. And not just for a foldable phone, for any phone, these photos look fantastic, in my opinion. One thing you're missing from the Samsung that I would like to have seen, because it's such an expensive flagship device, is a periscope zoom lens. So something that goes 5, maybe even 10x being Samsung. Just take it from the S22 Ultra and shove it in the phone. But they haven't. Maybe they'll do it for the Z Fold 5. Don't know. But that to me is one thing that is glaringly missing, in my opinion. Now, other hardware facts is obviously it's USB-C, it's got wireless charging capabilities, it does charge wired at 45 watts and wirelessly at 15 watts. You've got reverse wireless charging here, 10 watts. Now, I'm going to include battery life in with that hardware because I don't want to make this video last too long. Ultimately, the 4400 milliamp hour battery lasts a full day comfortably. If you're using it from light to moderate usage, you could actually make this a 2-day phone, and that's with the larger screen. I actually use the larger inside screen way more than the outer display, purely because I have bad eyes, I have an eye condition, blah blah blah, smallest violin, but I do. So the bigger screen works for me, so that's the screen I use most to reply to messages, read emails, multitask, all that good stuff. So internally, as you would expect from a Samsung flagship phone, it's running the latest and greatest Snapdragon chip, not Exynos. One thing you will never find in a Z Fold, thankfully, whether you're in the UK, Europe, America, they're all going to come with the Snapdragon chip. This has got the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. What can I say? It's going to cope with anything you throw at it. The heaviest game, the longest edits, the 50 apps open at the same time. It's absolutely going to cope with that, especially when you pair it with the fact that the minimum RAM you'll get these days on the Z Fold 4 is 12 gigabytes. You can go up to 16 gigabytes, but 12 gigabytes is the minimum. And that's important because I remember getting the base model Z Fold 3 last year, which, by the way, was my first ever foldable screen phone. And it came with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that filled up quick. You know, when you go into your battery and device care settings, it was always like, oh, use virtual RAM, use virtual RAM. Whereas on this, I've never actually had to use some virtual RAM. That's where you can take up to 4 or 8 gigs of the DDR5 storage and use it as RAM. I've never had to do that with the Z Fold 4, but I'm not a big gamer, so take that with a pinch of salt. As mentioned, storage on board, DDR5, and it is 256 gigs, which is the one I got. I got the 12 gigabyte RAM, 256 gigabytes storage, and we'll talk price soon. And it goes all the way up to 1 terabyte. There's no expandable storage on here, so keep that in mind. If you are using the device for content and you don't upload your content regularly to a laptop or desktop, you may want to get the bigger size, purely because the 50 megapixel pro photos, like raw images that it gets, are around 50 or 60 megabytes per file, and then you can do 4K 60 frames per second video. So if you take enough of those, it's going to eat up quite a lot of the memory inside. Other side of this, the software is obviously the operating system. It's Samsung's own One UI 4 on top of Android 12. Samsung and Google work closely together, so watch this space for the Android 13 update. That will be dropping very, very, very soon on the Samsung devices. Android 12 is the best Android version, in my opinion. It's more and more like iOS in that its capabilities to share, link to other devices, Bluetooth functionality, customization, how it kind of looks and feels. Obviously, being Android, you can customize this like to your heart's desire, whether that be install a launcher like Nova Launcher or just use Samsung's Good Lock app. You can customize every inch of the phone, the look and the feel, which again, I have spent hours doing and I love it. Now, including the software, you obviously have some multitasking. I generally am a man that will just have 2 screens. I'll have one thing on one side, typically emails, and then Teams or web browser on the right hand side. That works for me. And I was going to make a nice multitasking B-roll footage, but I needn't bother because Samsung have made their own. Check this out. So yeah, there you go. If you didn't notice as well, or I may not have put it in the edit, at the start of this video it does say this is not the real Da Vinci. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I can't believe nowadays we have to put this is not the real Leonardo da Vinci using a Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. But anyway, I hope you got the point about multitasking. Ultimately, you can use 3 or even 4 windows open at the same time. You can have floating windows. Again, with the RAM and the Snapdragon chip, everything is just very, very smooth, and I'm super, super impressed with the software. As promised, we're going to talk price now. That'll be me hitting the phone off the tripod. If you go to Samsung.com right now, today, like I just done, you will get Samsung Z Fold 4 base model, 12GB of RAM, 256GB storage for £1,649. I don't know what that is in dollars, around about $1,800. Yes, that is expensive. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I'm shooting from with 256GB of storage is £1,349 at apple.com. So there's a £300 difference, but let's scroll down the website. You can change it up to a terabyte and obviously go up to nearly £2,000, but sticking with the base model. You can choose different colours as well. I like the burgundy, but I always like to keep it safe with black. Black just seems to work with most things, so I picked the Phantom Black, but there is the grey, green and beige versions as well. But this is where Samsung gets interesting. Their trade-in scheme has been and looks to will always remain the king of trade-ins. If you had or have the Galaxy Z Fold 3, Samsung will give you up to £750 or £800 off of the new Z Fold 4. So if we say it's £800 to round it up, that takes your cost down to £850 for the new Z Fold 4. But they go further. When you scroll down the website and you look at the offers, included with my purchase of the Z Fold 4, they've just not arrived yet, is the Samsung Tab S6 Lite. Granted, you will probably already have a tablet, so you don't need it, but it's worth £300 on any website right now. So if you sold it on Gumtree or eBay and took 20% off, so £260, you're definitely going to get that unopened in box. Take that off the £800 that you had remaining, or the £850 remaining from the phone. So now you're looking at about £600 for the Z Fold 4. But it doesn't end there. You get the Note Pack. Again, don't open it. Sell it. Or keep it. It's up to you. But that's worth about £90. You also get a year of Disney Plus. A full year. That's worth another £80 or £90. So when you add all these in, you're actually paying about £400 or £500 to get the brand new Z Fold 4. I think that's incredible. If you look at the other side of the coin, Apple were giving me for my 13 Pro Max £550 off of the £1,350 for the 14 Pro Max. So what did that leave me? £800 to pay with no other accessories, trials, anything. That's a lie. I may have got a 3-month or 12-month free trial to Apple TV Plus, but I get that with my Apple One membership anyway, so it was pointless for me. Anyway, the point remains that the Samsung trading scheme and the perks and benefits you get are phenomenal, and that was after release. I know that pre-order wise, you were getting more for your Z Fold 3. You're also getting more money off. Some people actually paid nothing nothing to go from a Z Fold 3 to a Z Fold 4. That to me, that's just, yeah, price-wise, as much as it's expensive, and it is an expensive device, pretty impressive what Samsung can do to help ease that pain on your wallet. So my overall summary of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4, a fantastic foldable device. Lacking in a periscope zoom lens, that's about it. I have been a huge proponent of foldable devices for the past year or two. My channel has been devoted to the Vivo X Fold for quite a long time, until I sold it recently. I took the plunge to the Samsung Z Fold 4 mainly because I felt bad for kind of bashing Samsung so much, because the Vivo was far superior compared to the Z Fold 3. What I would say is the Z Fold 4 has closed the gap. The Vivo X Fold is still my favourite folding screen device to date, but the gap has certainly narrowed, and also it makes me excited to see what Samsung are going to do for the Z Fold 5, knowing that the Oppo Find N2, the Vivo X Fold 2, and the Xiaomi Mix Fold 3, when they all come out next year, I have it on good authority, aka a rumour/leak, that they're all going to try their very best to get a European, UK and US release. That's where we'll really see the game change for Samsung, because they can't rest on their laurels as much. They're going to have to start beefing up the specs and the hardware and the software. Again, they have done this as an incredible device. There's just shortcuts they're taking, and I know why they're taking them, because they've no competition. There's nothing else to choose from unless you want to import a device. But next year, that should all change. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. If you want to see more, you know what to do. And until next time, you know what to do.